He's with Adam Law Group.
I'm one of the and
We plan to release weekly videos
we plan to release weekly videos
about
about
starting with immigration.
Starting with immigration.
And if you find that interesting,
if you find it interesting, please subscribe.
Let me give you some
background
first
to help you better understand
what officers are looking for
in a tourist visa interview.
We're talking here about
the
B1/B2
temporary visitors for business
or
pleasure. Okay, so pleasure. What's the meaning? A pleasure just in here is like okay, let me ask ChatGPT much better. What's the meaning of pleasure when talking about? What's the meaning of pleasure? Pleasure, okay. Yeah, pressure. Oh my gosh, it's loading. What's the meaning of pressure when in a tourist visa? When pleasure is mentioned in the context of tourist visa, it typically refers to travel or visits. Okay, so I think a tourist visa for pleasure is like issue the individual who intend to engage in activities like so pleasure. Okay, I got it.
B1 part.
So the B1 part is about visit for business,
which we'll cover
in a separate video.
And the B2 is a temporary visitor.
It's temporary visitor for
pleasure.
Pressure. PREA. That's PREA. Okay, pressure. PREA. Yeah. That's pressure. Okay.
Now even within the
B2,
there are some
other purposes.
Such as medical treatment, accompanying someone
with certain non-immigrant visa. But here we're focused on typical tourist.
Now, with a certain non-immigrant visa.
With certain non-immigrant visa,
here we'll focus on
typical tourist visa.
Now this is the most
discretionary visa
category out. So the interview and decision.
So interview and decision typically just minutes.
Probably under 10.
Most likely. And that includes the time
the officers will interview
your information on screen
as
you're walking up to the window.
So they do this all
the time.
And it really doesn't take
them much time to see certain red flags.
Within that context.
With red flags. What's the meaning of red flags? Red flags. Let me see. Certain red flags. Okay. Certain red flags.
So
with a consular system. So in the interview, the officer must believe
that you
want the terms and conditions of the tourist visa. So
what does that mean?
So what does that mean?
They're really focusing on a couple main points. The first is are you really going to leave the U.S.
Are you really going to leave the U.S.
on
time? Are you really going to leave on the U.S. on time and not stay there?
We call that
immigrant.
Intent.
So we call that immigrant intent.
So the officers by regulation actually presume that
you have immigrant intent.
And it's your job
through the interview
to convince them
that you actually do not have immigrant intent and that you will be there temporarily and then leave the United States. The other point let's refocus on is are you going to work
in the United States
are you going to work in the United States without permission?
So we call that
work. Unauthorized work.
So again,
you need to convince the officers that you had no intention and will not be working with will be not working with authorization.
You're visiting.
Authorization, and while you're visiting the United
So with
States.
the framework,
the framework
used by the officers
in mind,
let's talk about the most common
questions and issues.
I'll include some
I'll include some examples
that some
have found surprising,
and even
if a particular example
doesn't
apply directly to you,
it should give
you should give you a better understanding of this framework
and how
that can play out in your tourist visa interview.
What is the purpose of your visit?
So, what is the purpose of your visit?
What's the reason for going to the United States?
What's the reason for going to the United States?
Why do you want to visit the U.S.?
Why do you want to visit the U.S.?
So, some question like...
Okay, so yeah, that's right.
Your tourist visa interview.
Okay, that's right.
So, what is the purpose of your visit?
What is the purpose of my purpose to visit to the U.S.? My purpose to visit the United States is I want to explore some different culture, different traditions, and explore some more things I haven't seen in China.
What's the reason for going to the United States?
What's the reason for going to the United States? And it's what I had this dream for like many years, and because it's during the COVID, I can't go to anywhere. But this time I can.
Why do you want to visit the U.S.?
Why do you want to visit the U.S.? Why do you want to visit the U.S.? Why do you want to visit the U.S.?
Purpose of your visit.
Purpose of your visit.
What's the reason for going to?
What's the reason going to the United States?
Why do you want to visit the?
Why do you want to? Okay,
what is the purpose of your visit?
What is the purpose? What's the purpose of your visit? What's the purpose of your visit? What's the purpose of your visit? What's the purpose?
Reason for going to the United States.
What's the reason for going to the United States? What's the reason for going to the United States?
Why do you want to visit the U.S.?
Why do you want to visit the U.S.?
So,
why do you want to visit the U.S.? Why do you want to visit the U.S.? Okay, let's see. Okay, purpose of the visit U.S. What do you have intentions?
Question like that.
Some questions like that
be asked.
Will certainly be asked.
And obviously you're going for purpose.
Obviously you're going to for tourist purpose.
But here, you don't want to just say that.
You don't want to just say that.
You give a short answer.
You want to give a short answer
with some specifics.
For example,
I'm going to take a tour. Of the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon.
Disney World, National.
Whatever it is. National. Okay, whatever. Nashville. Okay. Disney World. Nashville. Okay. Nashville. Okay, it's Nashville. Okay, Nashville. Okay, Nashville. Where it is? In the middle. You know what? In the East Coast, Philadelphia and near Washington, DC, just DC, okay. Newport, Boston. Okay.
Something like I'm going to visit my friend, sister, or to spend time with my
daughter and her family again.
Whatever your situation is. In your purpose, some red flags
to be raised. That's maybe raised.
And for example, if you're visiting a
significant other,
like your boyfriend, girlfriend, or lover, then
okay, so I can just
for a petition for you already. Please see our other video where we discuss that specifically. Now, let's say your answer is something like, my purpose, I'm going to see my new grandchild.
I'm going to see my new grandchild, my new grandbaby. Okay, I don't have
maybe something like that.
Maybe something like
that. Now, a lot of people think.
A lot of people think.
It's a perfect
reason.
Of course, it makes
perfect sense. Okay.
So, in the United States, unauthorized work, the officer can think, if you weren't there, there would be more job opportunities for the U.S. citizen or